What's going on there, guys? Good morning, good afternoon to those out there. It is the Earthmaster here on this Sunday. It is April 10th, 2022, about 11:11 a.m. One of my favorite numbers right there, 11:11. Here on this Sunday here in Northern California. It is pretty windy out here once again. Got a pretty strong north wind and some major fire hazard weather conditions prevailing here throughout California, unfortunately, with our extended long-term drought situation. Not cool. Anyway, got some cooler weather coming up tomorrow with a slight chance of rain and some mountain snow. What do we got for latest earthquake out there on the globe? A 4.0 earthquake here along the Java Trench. This area really kicked up here last night and this morning into the northern end. And also now we're starting to see some further activity into the Java Trench area down here in the middle section. Quite a few fives up here to the north. Let's go ahead and check out some space weather activity. I kind of want to report here. We've seen some unexpected conditions kick up with some auroras. Stand by for just a second. See if I can get this kicking up. There we go. Had some high solar wind stream speed kicking up here last night. Kicked us up to a KP index of 7 on the board. That brought auroras down towards the mid-latitudes here. I think I was sleeping when that event came in. But, man, pretty unexpected. I don't think they were calling for that. Last night when we were doing the update, it was clear across the board. Green. Only a very small chance of any type of storming, but that changed in a blink of an eye. It seems as though that's kind of what we're looking at as far as trends go. It seems like when they predict something or forecast something, it kind of just goes away and never really happens. And then when we don't expect it, it does happen. So I find that pretty crazy. Looking at the space weather news site here, the solarham.net talks about this. Well, they need to change their date here. This shows the April 7th, which is not correct. It should be 410. But, well, that was unexpected. A strong G3 geomagnetic storm was observed due to an enhanced solar wind stream containing a period of southward BZ. Visible aurora has been reported across many locations from middle to high latitudes. A return to quieter conditions is expected. So, but wrong date, but that is from this morning. There's the KP index right there that kicked up to around the 7. And a little bit, you can see a little bit of amplified wind speed here in the solar stream, kind of adding on to the coronal hole that was facing us. This is that high wind speed from the sun, solar particles and whatnot, and then the southward tilt up here, the BZ, right about that time is when it allowed the that wind speed to come right in and give us some auroras there, and the KP index is really ramping up. I believe this was all from, like I mentioned, a passing CME here. I think it was yesterday, and along with the coronal hole activity, the speed from that kind of combined to make this a little amplified event. But still, when you get that tilt on the BZ charts, it does allow much more solar activity to pour into the region of this planet. Right now, let's make sure this is the latest coronal hole image. Yep, there's a couple of them. That's the one that was facing Earth here. It's kind of facing not directly at us. There's another one around the bend here, about ready to come up. Sunspot activity is pretty low, but even these solar coronal holes here are not that significant. So I'm really surprised at that. The one that was this one here that was kind of facing us more yesterday had that much power. Actually, it was a couple days ago, I think, when this was a little bit more direct. But I'm just surprised that it really kicked up last night like that. Pretty much unexpected for sure. But Mother Nature and space and the sun does what it wants, right? It does give us some pretty crazy surprises once in a while. Sunspot activity, there's not a whole lot on there in terms of any complex sunspots that could produce any flaring. That's certain, but hey, you never know with all this unusual activity going on here. Wouldn't be surprised. Looking at the latest earthquake activity here on the USGS map, what do we got? Let's back out here a little bit. We're still seeing that westward push here of some movement. The USGS not showing the activity that's occurring down here in the Java Trench, and I'm not for sure why. EMSC models were on the earthquake 3D globe, so let's go ahead and check these out here real quick on the EMSC charts. See what these guys are reporting. There's that 4-pointer coming in there to the Java Trench area. Sometimes it takes the USGS an hour or more to report this activity, but definitely some movement kicking up here. Since yesterday, we've seen that little train of activity working its way up through the Papua New Guinea area and into the Indonesia islands and to the Java Trench area. Up here around Japan, seeing some 5s and 4s kick off here as well. And up here on the close to the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench, we're seeing some movement. Kind of want to see if the USGS reporting this. They're reporting some of it. Not seeing the other earthquake up here that was shown on the EMSC model, but definitely seeing an influx of earthquake activity up here, an adjustment along the Japan Trench. Of course, we did have that deeper movement along Fiji a couple days ago. I think we even had another one yesterday. And then the Vanuatu area, seen that 6.3. And some westward movement following this train of activity here. We did see a little bit of adjustment here on the southeast Indian Ridge with a couple of 4s. Well, at least one 4 and a 5.1 earthquake down here. But still, I still think we got an area to watch here along the New Zealand region. All this movement and no adjustment down here just got me a little bit on the concern side, so we'll keep an eye on that area. Kermadec Trench, New Zealand region. There's activity here north of the Java Trench near the Andaman Sea. Seeing a little swarm of activity near the Nicobar Islands. Quite a few 5s. Look at that. 5.4, the largest so far in this cluster of quakes. Trying to think if they had a bigger one here a couple days ago. Let me see what they had. Yeah, I don't see any major ones here within the last week. Last 30 days of activity around the Andaman Sea doesn't really show too much more. So this is all pretty much recent events here in this area. I got to watch this region pretty closely. I want to check out the historical data in this area. Of course, wow, no surprise here, folks. Definitely seen some historical earthquakes since about 1900. A massive amount of them. Some deep ones and some shallow ones there. Deep one's going to be in the gray circle. I don't see any super deep movement here in this area, but it is in a highly seismically active zone here. Some of those get up around 6 magnitude or so, 6 to 7 magnitude. So, and I'm sure some bigger ones in that region. Let's see, what do we got here up around the Myanmar area? 4.4, that came in last night. And up here around Nepal, near the Himalaya, 4.2 at 10 kilometers. Pretty shallow earthquake activity there. Middle East, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, over here, not a whole lot going on. We did see some movement around the Turkey area with the 4.0 early this morning. Also last night, seen some movement up here around the Albania area and Kosovo region. Down here in Greece, also seen a 4.3. It looks as though for now this area has come to a halt in that forward movement. Still getting a lot of back building and pressure here along the Indonesia region. I think we got to watch that pretty closely. The Atlantic Ocean out here had a pair of 5s. That was from last night. Early last night. I don't think we've seen anything further south here. We got one earthquake here in the South Sandwich Islands of 4.9. That from late last night as well. It looks like early this morning. South America region still pretty quiet here, folks. 5.0 in the Peru area. That one at 18.7 kilometers. Pretty shallow movement there. Last week we did see a little swarm of activity here in the deep range into the Peru-Chile Trench. No major adjustment, but definitely some building up slip rate here along the subduction zone. Puerto Rico, a little on the hot side today, it looks like, in terms of earthquake activity. A little bit of movement around the Mono Passage region, seeing a couple threes and some twos out here in the area. Also up here around the Puerto Rico Trench. Some movement up there as well. The St. John's region southward into the Dominica look pretty quiet for now. I want to check out the states, see what's going on up here. Along the west coast, a little bit of activity here at the southern end of the Cascadia once again. This movement here at 18 kilometers deep. That is a subduction zone earthquake, no doubt, into the southern end. But it's kind of right around the Mendocino Triple Point Junction area. We've got the Pacific Plate, North American Plate, and the and if you want to be specific, the Gorda Plate down here, just shy of that Triple Point area. Oregon, what's going on up here in Oregon? One earthquake near Butte Falls, Oregon. Pretty deep, about 14 kilometers there for a 2.0. Throughout the volcanoes into the Washington region. Mount St. Helens, a little bit of activity popping up today around there, and as well as Mount Rainier. Let's go ahead and check out the movement here. A tremor map, of course, returned back to 0 yesterday. No tremors after a pretty good about 10 or 11 days of significant tremor. Volcanic seismicity map here at Mount St. Helens. We'll go ahead and check this out here. I like to zoom in really close and pick out this station right around the epicenter of a previous microquake swarms here. Give it a second to load. All right, what do we got? Yeah, definitely still some activity here. Some movement on the map here. This is a recorded seismograph of Mount St. Helens. And looking on this map here, there was one directly right on top of the seismograph here, almost a one-pointer. This occurred at 22:41 UTC time. So I'd like to double check and see if we can find it on here. That was 22:41, but that was from yesterday. So they have not added the earthquake activity that we're seeing right here on today's map. See those earthquakes? About 3 of them. Let's go back to the previous day and let's see if we can find that 22:41 earthquake. Yeah, 22:41 UTC time. 22:41 is going to be somewhere down here, but man, that's a mix of clutter in there. So we can maybe this one right here, just barely. I don't know if you guys can see that line. So that must mean that these ones that we're seeing today are a little bit bigger than the 0.9. These probably are up in the 1.5 range. That's happening here over the last few hours today at Mount St. Helens. I'll see if we get to them or not, as far as like these guys reporting them. Go ahead and check out Mount Rainier. Let's see if we can get some stations keyed in here. I've been having some issues here accessing good quality data from these seismographs. I'm not for sure what's going on up there. Could be wind speed, could be who knows what. It could be working on stuff, but this is not volcanic at all, folks. This is not what volcanic activity looks like. It's not what earthquake activity looks like. This is what interference or possibly wind events could look like here. It's not anything related to any seismic activity there at Mount Rainier. Check out the previous day. They've been having these just weird readings here, but I can assure you they are not anything natural aside from maybe wind. That's about it. Volcanic activity will not look like that, trust me, or seismic activity. Let's go over here and check out. We checked out Mount St. Helens. I still want to keep an eye on the Newberry volcano in Oregon because they've been having a swarm, right? It's been kind of kicking up a little bit. Check these guys out, see if their seismographs are working properly today. Yeah, this looks a little bit more readable here. Even up in Oregon, these guys are having some stronger winds, but doesn't look like it affects the seismograph as much. A little bit of earthquake activity popping up here, but nothing specific. Maybe some small ones. And some of these other readings here look like it could be weather related. Most of the time, earthquake activity is going to look like a very defined spike, but it's going to have a little bit of thickness to it depending on the magnitude. So there's a couple small earthquakes happening there at the Newberry volcano there in Oregon. Up here as well, it looks like there's some S waves from, it looks like yesterday's 6.3 there around the Vanuatu area. And these S waves do travel across the globe pretty significantly. That's going to be these really wavy type lines. But for the most part, everything looks pretty good there at the Newberry volcano. We'll go ahead and check back here onto the USGS map. Up around Seattle, a little bit of activity here kicking up. It looks like a 1.3 at 16 kilometers. Again, no tremor being recorded along the Cascadia. I'm hoping that they're not having issues again with reporting. The EMSC model, once again, let's go ahead and refresh this, make sure we got the latest map here from the EMSC, which we do. Still seeing quite a bit of swarming here along the Middle America Trench off the coast of Mexico, Guatemala area, and some movement also into the Gulf of California here yesterday. Seen some movement. I don't think any of this is new. Most of it's from late last night, early this morning. It looks like there might be a couple. But the big push down here along the Middle America Trench. South America, even though it's showing pretty quiet on the USGS map, they are showing some 2s and 3s up here overnight and this morning as well in this area. And there's some swarming going on here around the New Zealand area. So even with this map here showing nothing really going on here, even though they're actually reporting one earthquake here, it looks like. 2.4. I'm really surprised the USGS showed a 2.4 on the map. That's kind of surprising there. So we did see a little bit of adjustment here. You got to kind of have to look at the smaller quakes to see some adjustment following the deeper activity up here north. So there has been some. I want to go back here to the EMSC map and look at these. Quite a few 3s kicking off here. Following that movement up here yesterday. I still think we could see something bigger down here along the Kermadec Trench, New Zealand area. But there's definitely an increase in movement following that deeper activity here in Fiji. And then the further subsequent movement working its way westward with that westward pressure. Of course, all this, I'm not going to pull up the plate dynamics here when it shows the general movement of the plates. But there's definitely westward pressure here from the Pacific Plate. It's huge, it's massive. Subduction zone down here along the Hikurangi subduction zone. And that one there is definitely accumulating stress as well. But I think we got to watch this area pretty closely. What else we got here, folks? One more earthquake popping up here on the map. This one's pretty deep right here into the trench. Really deep. 249 kilometers. That's for miles. 155 miles deep into the Mariana Trench. It does get some deeper movement here, but I'm trying to think if I've seen some activity here over the last week or so. Let me check this out. 7 days of movement. There's not a whole lot. Did have a 4.6 a little bit further south, but not quite as deep. This one here at 95 miles. So definitely some adjustment up here. Deep activity, folks. Of course, you got to remember accumulated stress upstream along the subduction zone areas that include locked areas of the Mariana Trench and whatnot. Got to watch that pretty closely around here because this area, no doubt, can see some pretty big earthquakes. Go ahead and check out this movement here along the Mariana Islands area. And we'll pop this up here. See these darker circles indicating some deeper movement. The star epicenter here is where that activity struck today. As far as sizable earthquakes, they can get up there 5, 6s and some 7s along this trench area. So quite a bit of activity can occur in that area of the Mariana Trench. See what else we got. Alaska, a little bit of activity kicking up here. I know we're bouncing all over the place, but yeah, it's all right. It's Sunday, right? Some movement up here around Anchorage, Denali, and through the Cook Inlet. A bunch of ones and twos. Let's double check the west coast here. I know we kind of got sidetracked with the volcanoes up there in the Pacific Northwest. There's not a whole lot going on throughout the Southern California area. Looks like a little bit of movement around the San Andreas fault zone. A couple small microquakes up here around the Salinas area. And looks like it's just a typical day out here, California style, with some microquakes along a, of course, major plate boundary, right? There's always going to be earthquakes. A little swarm up here northwest of San Bernardino. Looks like a couple ones, very it's somewhat deep here, 4.2 miles in terms of kilometers. Looking at about 6 kilometers or so in this area. Just off of the San Jacinto fault zone. It's going to be the northern section. A couple different segments up here. A little bit of squeezing in between this area. Other than that, folks, the rest of the country looks clear. There's severe weather threat coming up here for you folks that live out in Oklahoma and Texas area. A whole bunch of possibilities of some severe weather. Stand by for just a second here. Kind of want to pull up the old convective outlooks here. This is current day 1. Day 2 tomorrow brings us to a start of a multi-day severe weather threat. Lots of population densities here throughout the region where this severe weather is going to be hitting. Looks like the Dallas, Fort Worth, Memphis, Tennessee, and the Arlington, Plano, Texas area all under the gun in terms of at least a slight risk of severe weather. As far as tornado potential goes, looks like about 5% for a good portion of Arkansas and southeast Oklahoma, parts of Texas in there as well. But you don't have to be in the 5% range to get a tornado. You can definitely get one outside that level. 2% chance ranges a little bit further. Wind speed damage could see some wind gusts of 65 knots or higher in the 15% chance. That kind of spreads out to the central part of Texas as well with a 5% chance. Hatched area of 15% chance there throughout Oklahoma and Texas and Arkansas area. We've seen a pretty good chance of a 2-inch hail or larger in within pretty much 25 miles of a point. So that's day 2. Day 3 is going to be the one to really watch out for as we see the enhanced models come into agreement. Or actually, these models definitely come into agreement here of a higher likelihood of severe weather throughout Oklahoma and parts of Texas, stretching well up into Kansas and further north. So this is going to be a pretty wide area of, even in Nebraska, wow, Omaha, pretty large area of significant severe weather. So we'll have to watch that in the coming days, but just be prepared. That's day 3, and then the next day it kind of shifts east a little bit. Yeah, there's the predictabilities. Once you get out, it kind of becomes an iffy deal. But man, day 4 looks like a avocado type of day with that on the map. Large portion of the south once again under the gun for severe weather, and 30% chance at that. So that's pretty high in terms of issuing that severe weather threat. All right, guys, we're going to jump off here. Just stay alert, be prepared. We will chat you guys a little bit later on for the update tonight. But in the meantime, enjoy the Sunday. And, of course, enjoy every day, right? Every day that we get to wake up is a day we get to celebrate, that's for sure. All right, guys, we'll catch you a little bit later on this evening. Have a good one.